The movie begins by showing us Will, a bartender working a low-wage job, tending to Alicia and her boyfriend Jeffrey. Will and Alicia have an under-the-table flirtatious dynamic that Jeffrey can't help but pick up on. Will performs magic tricks that surprises both Alicia and Jeffrey and wins $5 from Alicia because they had a bet. While serving them, they notice a cockroach in the bar and they get really grossed out. Will uses his towel to skillfully remove the cockroach from the cap of the beverage, and while Will takes out the garbage, Alicia and Jeffrey start kissing intensely, which makes Will a little bit uncomfortable and jealous. Outside, Will meets Eric, a heavy alcoholic who just returned from war after serving his country as a soldier. And Eric here was puking his guts out and takes a breath to tell Will that he would be in the bar in just a few minutes. Inside the bar, Alicia asks Will to pour her a shot, and Jeffrey goes to the bathroom, and when he returns, he runs into Eric, who aggressively holds him by the collar. You really don't want an alcoholic veteran doing that to you, it's quite unnerving. So Will and Alicia try to calm things down by telling Eric that Jeffrey was with them, and Eric agrees to let him go and buys a couple of shots to show his apology. And while Will had a conversation with Eric, a young man approaches the bar and asks for a drink. Will asks the kid for an ID to prove if he's 21, and the kid provides one. And even though Will knew the ID was fake, he decided to give the kid 4 beers. And just then, Eric receives a surprising hug from one of his friends and gets up from his stool, excited to see his group. They then go to the pool table and start playing, and while Will pours Alicia and Jeffrey more drinks, a sudden fight erupts between Eric and Doug, one of the new people that his buddies brought. The young group starts recording the fight, then suddenly, Doug jams a broken bottle inside Eric's face, slashing his entire cheek open. Yeah, pretty wild. In pain and angry, Eric beats Doug unconscious while everyone watches helplessly. After the fight was over, Will informs Eric that he'd called the cops, which makes Eric really nervous, and he decides to leave. Everyone in the bar cleans out except for Alicia and Jeffrey, and as he cleans up, Will finds a phone with yellow covers on the ground and he picks it up. He assumes one of the young college students left it there, so he keeps it until someone comes and retrieves it. I would have probably just sold the phone and threw away the yellow cover, but I guess this guy's pretty kind. Later that night, Will drives to his house where he lives with his girlfriend Carrie and crawls into bed next to her. And when he realizes that she wasn't feeling like waking up, he gets up and fetches himself a beer from the fridge. As he enjoys his beer on the dining room table, he sees a text come through on the phone he found at the bar. And the ominous text reads that something was with the person that was sending the text. Will sees another text come through, and this one said that they shouldn't have messed with the book and that they were scared. Curious, Will tries to figure out the pattern to open the phone and succeeds after studying the hand strokes on the phone, and Will sends a message that would inform the kids that they left the phone at the bar. Suddenly, another ominous message pops up asking Will to help them. Feeling like the kids are playing a prank on him, he responds and tells them to stop effing around and to come get the phone. In the morning, Will wakes up to find his girlfriend making breakfast in the kitchen. After serving both their meals, she asks him whose phone he'd bought home, and Will tells her that it was just some girl who forgot it at the bar. Carrie then starts snooping around in the phone and she finds this disturbing picture of teeth covered with blood, and the picture was sent in messages. She shows Will, who is equally disturbed, and she tells Will that he should give the phone to the cops, and he agrees. After breakfast, Will drops off Carrie at the university where she meets her professor Steve. Then on his way to the bar, Will calls Alicia and asks her if she would come have a beer with him, which she promptly declines. She tells him that she would see him at night and just hangs up the phone. When he gets to the bar, Will gets out of his car and notices a black Jaguar and a girl inside watching him. When he tries to get close to see who it was, the person notices and drives the car away. Inside the bar, Will finds Rosie washing glasses behind the counter. She then asks him to check on Eric because she couldn't leave the bar at the moment, and Will goes out and heads upstairs to where Eric lives and knocks at the door. When Eric opens, Will is shocked to see the giant hole Doug has left on his face and insists that they call an ambulance. Eric refuses and drags him inside the house, telling him that he had a friend that would sew it up for free. Eric then goes to bed and asks Will to stay with him for a bit. As Will sits and watches Eric sleep, he grabs a beer, and after a while, Will leaves Eric's house and heads to the nearest deli to get himself a sandwich. And after eating the food on the stairs, he brings the rest for his girlfriend. But when he got there, he sees that Carrie wasn't home, so he starts playing video games to pass the time, and suddenly the ominous phone starts buzzing again. A text tells Will to go through the pictures on the phone, and he does that, and on the phone, Will finds several gruesome pictures of dead bodies and severed heads. He goes through one specific video that shows a ritualistic cadaver showing strange characteristics. Before he could investigate, Carrie walks into the house and he drops the phone in shock. She asks him what he was looking at on the phone, and Will replies that it was nothing. She then asks why he hadn't given the phone to the police yet, and he tells her that he's going to the police station later. After getting bandaged by Carrie, Will reluctantly hands her the phone and tells her to look at the last pictures after warning her of the gruesome nature. Carrie looks at the pictures and is shocked by what she sees, and she asks Will to take the evidence to the police, and Will assures her that he'll take it to Dwayne, a friend who was also a cop. She tells him to leave immediately, and he gets in his car and starts driving to the station. On his way, Will receives a text from the strange phone telling him that he'd been chosen, and suddenly it changes into a swarm of cockroaches. Shocked by the incident, Will stops the car and tries to get the cockroaches off of him by rolling on the ground after tossing the phone outside his car. When a crowd of people gather around him and start taping the incident, Will realizes everything that was happening was in his head and he gets up. Realizing he had dropped the phone, he hurried towards where he lost it, but sees the same college kids from the bar who pick up the phone and disappear in their Jaguar. He finally makes it to the police station where he was sitting anxiously waiting for his friend to see him, and Dwayne finally comes to get Will, and he takes him to where Patrick was sitting. They ask him about the incident of the night before, and Will tells them that he doesn't know much about the man that attacked Eric. He then continues his story by telling them about the strange phone that he found and the contents that were inside. They then ask him where the evidence was, but he tells them that it was taken by the same kids that left it in the first place. Dwayne then sends him away, thinking that he was just paranoid about the whole incident. That night, Alicia comes to the bar without Jeffrey. When Will's curious mind asks her where her boyfriend was, she tells him that she left him behind because he'd started acting jealous. Will then asks her to spend the night drinking with him because he had troubling thoughts on his mind, and Alicia agrees and even does illicit drugs with him in the bathroom. And before they knew it, time passes and Will's shift comes to an end. He takes Alicia for a drive, and while they talk about their broken relationships, Alicia confesses that she doesn't feel like she's doing anything with her life even though she's almost 30, and Will tries to console her by telling her that she was living her best life. They then make a stop at the beach and they share an intimate moment that escalates into a deep makeout until Alicia abruptly stops it. She then tells Will that what they're doing is wrong because they're both in a relationship. Although upset, Will drives Alicia to her house, who informs him that nothing like that could ever happen between them again. And as Will watches Alicia enter her house, he suddenly gets a call from Carrie. But before he could get his message across, the phone disconnects, and he receives a series of pictures of his own house from Carrie's phone. He then hurries home and gently calls out to his girlfriend in the dark house, and he finds her in front of her computer watching a strange video, mesmerized by what she was seeing. He then wakes her up from her daze and takes her to bed. The next day, Will wakes up agitated and finds Carrie sitting casually on the living room sofa. While he pours himself some coffee, she asks him about the progression of the investigation. She's quite annoyed that Will is not concerned about what he saw on the phone, and this really irritates him. Disgusted by her boyfriend's behavior, Carrie picks up her bag and she heads out. Will decides to go through the research Carrie had been doing regarding all the contents that she found on the phone, and this leads him to some strange information. That night, during his shift, Will had developed an irritation for everyone that crosses his way. He meets his friend Dwayne in the bar and asks him if he found out anything about the kids who left the phone, but Dwayne tells him that he didn't find out anything. A few minutes later, a drunk Jeffrey and Alicia come inside the bar. Jeffrey seems to have found out about the passionate night Alicia had spent with Will and was pretty upset about it, and he starts challenging Will, which escalates the situation to unnecessary heights, and Alicia is forced to drag her boyfriend out of the bar. While Will tries to calm himself down, he receives a message from Carrie showing a picture of her sitting alone in the bathroom. Believing she might be in danger, he hurries out of the bar and heads home. Inside, he finds Carrie plastered to her computer, watching a strange video of a dark hole. And she'd also urinated all over herself and seemed unconscious to her surrounding, so he picks her up and tries to clean her by putting her in the bathtub. Then suddenly, the water turns black as if he dropped her in a tub full of diesel. Finally coming to her senses, she pulls herself out of the water, trashing and telling Will not to touch her. He then takes her to bed, where she tells him that there might be somebody else inside the house, but she still doesn't remember seeing anyone. The next morning, while Carrie and Will have breakfast at the dining table, Will informs her his decision that he wants to end their relationship. But Carrie casually tells him that she was okay with it, which really upsets Will and makes him rush to pack up and leave. He then hurries to the bar and starts day drinking. Rosie, the owner of the bar, tries to speak to him about his troubles, but Will acts arrogant and curses Rosie before leaving and quits his job. When he goes outside and sits on the staircase that leads to Eric's house, he suddenly remembers a message that he received from Eric to come and see him, and he heads up to his house. When he opens the door without an invitation and heads inside, he finds the place in complete disarray. He then finds Eric laying on his bed and his face was a complete mess. He tells Eric that he's going to be forced to stay with him for a few days, and he heads to the couch despite Eric's refusal. Will calls Alicia and tries to speak to her about the night before, but she abruptly closes the phone after informing him that she loves her boyfriend and that she won't be coming to the bar for a while. And feeling aggravated by what Alicia said, Will starts ransacking the house when Eric appears behind him and tells him that he wants him out of his place. But Will was already pretty pissed and he puts Eric in a death grip and he starts interrogating him about the message that he sent him. Eric then tells him that the college kids forced him to give Will a present. So Will asks Eric what the present was, and Eric points to his dresser. And when he opens it, Will finds the yellow phone with messages coming through asking whether he found the present. Will, enticed by the possibility of the gift, calls the number and keeps texting the phone. When the call connects, there was a screeching frequency that causes Eric a lot of pain. After thrashing on the bed for a while, Eric's lacerated cheeks start to open and a certain creature pulls its way out and enters Will's eager open mouth. And the movie ends as Will accepts the dark creature that's been haunting him ever since he found the strange phone and its disturbing contents. And this is how the movie ends. It's a psychological thriller. This is just where they end it. I really encourage you guys to check it out. Also, I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave me a like, leave me a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel. I love you guys so much and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!